So you're probably looking at the title of this video and just wondering what happened to the rest of the months, what happened to all the games, all the prospect profiles, everything that's usually shown from the last episode you saw being a prospect profile in April, and now you're seeing this video titled something along the lines of April through mid-August or through July recap. So essentially what happened with this year, the reason why I've been able to pump out so many videos daily, previous years I would end up getting like overwhelmed, or I would end up just getting lazy and I wouldn't be able to keep up at a daily pace of uploads. Like once we got a decent amount into the series, I would end up taking like 1 or 2 or even 3 days off and then posting the next video just because I was too lazy to edit that day. And I would do a thing where I wouldn't maybe record that same day and upload that same day, but I would record it the day before, and then I wouldn't feel like uploading, or I wouldn't feel like editing, and I would just want to play like something with my friends when I had free time. And that's what I used to do, but this year I've just been recording super far ahead in this franchise, so basically what you're seeing something happen, I probably recorded it like 2-3 weeks ago. Maybe not that drastic, but at least like a full week, maybe 2 weeks prior to when you're actually seeing it. And I take notes on everything that happens, so I know I don't like pull up a footage from 2 weeks ago and be like, what the hell happened in this game? I don't remember. So I keep notes and everything, so everything is still fresh, and I don't have like no idea what's going on. I still have talking points and all that stuff for monthly recaps, and then I've got everything written down for what happened in game episodes, so I don't get lost while I'm editing. But for whatever reason, I started recording with my external hard drive instead of my internal hard drive, because my internal hard drive obviously has limited space. It's not just recordings on there, and I couldn't get too far ahead without completely just like ruining my hard drive and making my computer run like a piece of dirt. So I started recording with my external hard drive, did a couple tests, everything seemed fine. I would record a decently long footage and be like, alright, I can play it back, everything's good, this should be good. And then I just kept recording and recording and recording, and next thing I know, I'm finally to the point where I have to import these videos from my external hard drive to my editing software. And for whatever reason, all of these videos, some of them were corrupted and just didn't play at all. Some of them, and if the ones that weren't corrupted, only recorded up to 18 minutes. So everything after the 18-minute mark of the recording is completely gone, which, as I'm sure you can come to the conclusion of, when it comes to pitching players' prospect profiles, those are much longer than 18 minutes. Basically, the only thing that actually got recorded was hitter prospect profiles and stuff like trades and just like little tiny things that I would record to like add into monthly recaps, like all-star rosters, the entry draft, if I call somebody up just so I have their stats when they get called up, because you can't go back and look at someone's AA stats when they're in AAA without sending them back down to AA just to look. Stuff like that. So, trust me, there is absolutely nobody on this planet that is more pissed about this than me. I promise you, nobody is more pissed, nobody is more pissed than me. I cannot believe that this happened. It's an absolute bummer, but I'm gonna do my best to basically, in this video, take you through all the way through April up until mid-August to where we are currently in 2020, and then we're going to be showing the rest of the year throughout the next few days. So basically, I probably won't do like 3 gameplay episodes for the month of September or the rest of August. I'll probably do like 2 more games in August and then like 3 or 4 in September, and then it will be the end of the year. So basically, it's not going to be an August monthly recap. Once we do get to the end of the August, I'm just going to save that for once we get to the end of the regular season. But enough of me talking about this. Once again, I am very, very sorry that this happened. You can all be pissed at me if you want. I totally get it. It's something that I do not want to... If I was watching the series, I would not want this to happen as a viewer. I definitely don't want it to happen as the creator. And it's really just me. It's me fucking up. It's me just honestly being lazy and not checking these recordings after every recording, just trusting that my few test recordings before I decided to record the external hard drive was going to be enough to show me that these things would actually work. and I just wasn't doing that. So from this point on, we're recording on the regular hard drive, so things don't happen like this, and we're not going to have to worry about this anymore. But once again, I am very sorry, and let's just hop into this 2020 April through mid-August recap. So starting off in April, you have seen a couple videos from April, but in April, I would say probably like late April, Tommy Joseph got hurt. So Tommy Joseph, he was sent on the 60-day DL, and that allowed us to call up Vince Falvey from AAA. He took over as the DH in April. And then in May, nothing really too major happened. It was really just Hunter Dozier got sent down to AAA because all the way through April and then probably like halfway through May, he really just wasn't hitting. And I wanted to have Pavin Smith, who was raking in AAA, called up to the big league, so we did that. Sent on Hunter Dozier, who basically spent most of the season in AAA and is now... He's in AAA, and now Pavin Smith is our starting first baseman in Kansas City. Move things on to June, and this is where things start getting very interesting. This is where things start happening. So the first thing that happened in June, very early on in June, is the 2020 MLB entry draft. I'm not going to show you these guys' overalls, because these guys will be getting prospect profiles next season once they're in the roster, or seasons after that. Just depends on how good of a prospect they are and if I can squeeze them into next season. But these guys are going to eventually get prospect profiles, but the guys we took are second baseman Cody Escalona, starting pitcher Henry Nunez, starting pitcher Greg Howard, starting pitcher James Rice, outfielder William Dagas, I'm going to get that pronunciation down eventually, catcher Tommy O'Doul, relief pitcher Roger Mooney, and then starting pitcher Richard Rorbo? I'm going to get that pronunciation down as well, but those are the guys that we did take in the 2020 entry draft. Also in the month of June, Jake Jewell had a pretty serious elbow injury, so he was on the DL, on the 60-day DL for quite a long time. He only recently came back, which we will get into a bit later on, but Brad Keller was called up to take Jake Jewell's place as the second long reliever alongside of Rafael Montero and Brad Keller. He's been in the bullpen ever since then, which we'll get into a bit later on. Also, Jesse Hahn was sent down to AAA because he was playing like absolute garbage for us in the rotation, so he was sent down to AAA, hopefully work on his craft, and maybe eventually come back. But Jesse Hahn was sent down, and in his place we called up Foster Griffin, who finally came up to make his debut. So Foster Griffin, in the major leagues, he had 41 and a third innings pitched, 32 strikeouts, 11 walks, a 5.66 ERA, and 8 games started. So not the best cup of coffee in the big leagues for Foster Griffin, but it was just his first bit of taste in the big leagues. And he was sent down to AAA, which we aren't going to get into why quite yet, but we are going to very soon as I move throughout into the month of June. But taking a look at Foster Griffin's first career start, it was against the Minnesota Twins. It was a 2-1 victory for the Royals. Foster Griffin went 7 innings strong. He only gave up 5 hits, 1 run. He struck out 4. That was his first start. So he had a very good first start. He had a couple really good starts, but then he had a couple ones where he kind of got rocked as well, so that's why his ERA was quite high in those 8 games started. Also in the month of June, something that happened was Tommy Joseph returned from his injury off his 60-day DL. I believe he dislocated his shoulder, and he came back from that, but there was no place for him to play. First base was Pavin Smith. He was absolutely raking. DH, Vince Falvey, also absolutely raking, so we had to do something. I didn't want to send down to AAA, so instead, what we did was, because Richard Rose was struggling at second base as our leadoff guy, we went out and looked for a team that had maybe like a log jam of middle infielders or somebody who could use a DH, and we ended up trading Tommy Joseph to the Oakland Athletics, and in return, we got Marcus Semien, second baseman. He's a shortstop in real life. He can also play second and third. We're playing him at second base. So Simeon is in a he was in a logjam in Oakland, and also he wasn't having the greatest of seasons in Oakland through the first 3 so months of the season. So I decided we would give them a guy to be a solid DH for them, and Tommy Joseph, as well as a depth infielder in TJ Bennett, because they didn't really have much infield depth beyond what they had in the major leagues. A lot of just 60 overall C potential guys who were never really going to be anything. So TJ Bennett, some more infield depth through there. And Tommy Joseph got sent to the Oakland Athletics, and then in return we got Marcus Semien, who, like I said, was in a logjam there. He was struggling in Oakland, and he's also in the last year of his contract, and he's going to be a free agent at the end of this 2020 season. So we're going to have a decision to make if we bring him back or not. I'm still not sure if we are, but it really just depends on how I feel once the offseason starts and what decisions I have to make in this offseason. And then as a result of us trading for Semien as now our second baseman and leadoff guy, Richard Rose, who was very much struggling, got sent down to AAA. Rose, his attributes were even going down. Everything, you look at his player card right now, his attributes just continue to go down. He's not performing well. He's not even doing well in AAA in the 100-plus at-bats he's had in AAA here in 2020. And then in the major leagues, he just wasn't getting it done, especially as the leadoff guy with a 309 OBP, a 641 OPS. Definitely don't like to see that. And hopefully he can turn things around, because I was hoping he could be our long-term second baseman, but it looks like we're going to have to look in different directions for that position if Richard Rose continues to play like this. Now moving things on to the month of July. So first thing that happened in July is obviously, or first thing we're going to go over in the month of July is going to be the All-Star rosters. They're just scrolling by right now. We had 3 guys in the All-Star game. Kelvin Herrera made the All-Star team as a closer. I believe he's made the All-Star team all 3 years of this franchise. Ramon Torres somehow made the All-Star team at shortstop. The guy hit like 240, didn't have a high OBP, didn't have a great OPS. Somehow there was nobody else at shortstop in the American League that couldn't make it besides him. And then in left field, Jorge Bonifacio made the All-Star team as well. Also in the month of July, this is a guy who is going to be getting a prospect profile. You will be seeing this prospect profile this season because this guy has really come on the scene. He is a guy we signed in the offseason as one of those guys that a team drafted but did not sign and we picked up in the offseason. Larry Decker, he's been promoted to AAA. He started off in AA, and he was absolutely tearing things up. A 1,000 OPS, he had 26 home runs and a little over 300 at-bats, and he's gotten called up to AAA, and that's where he is now. We're hoping that he could possibly be a solution at second or third for us long-term, because he, as we will get into with his prospect profile in a few episodes, you will see that he is a guy who we should be looking at, because he is legit. And definitely the biggest thing that has happened in the month of July, and then just overall through all these months that have been gone through, was we made a very big trade for a starting pitcher. Chris Archer is now a member of the Kansas City Royals. Tampa Bay Rays not doing so hot. They're not really a great team. They could use some prospects, some young guys to fill in at certain positions. We have some prospects now. We didn't start off in this franchise with prospects, but we have quite a few now. We gave them some in return for Chris Archer because our pitching definitely needed some help, and that is why Foster Griffin got sent back down to AAA, because Chris Archer is now on our team. So basically, like I said, we needed pitching, and even though Chris Archer kind of has a high ERA this year, it's a low 4 ERA, I'm confident that he is still going to be a solid pitcher for us. And then also, Chris Archer is in the last year of his deal, and that was kind of something that I went back and forth with on deciding. I wanted to get a guy who was going to be a part of our rotation to take Felix Hernandez's spot when he leaves at the end of the season, and then take his spot in the rotation, then also give a open spot for Foster Griffin or another young guy to take over as the 5th starter. But Chris Archer, I couldn't pass up on trading for him, and we did give up a decently big package to trade him. So Archer, I am going to try to re-sign him in the offseason. I don't know how well it's going to go, but I am going to try that. We have a lot of money being freed up with the relievers who are on 1-year deals. Also, Felix Hernandez is making close to $7 million a year. So there's going to be a lot of money that's freed up that we're going to be able to throw into Chris Archer. But as far as the package we traded for Chris Archer, Jesse Hahn was just sent to Tampa Bay as a guy who was, when we traded him, he was dominating AAA, really working on his craft over there. And he was also just a starting pitcher to fill in at the major leagues for Tampa Bay, and then also for budgetary reasons, because we couldn't just give them these prospects because Chris Archer's making too much money, so we had to give in Jesse Hahn to balance the money out a little bit. So Jesse Hahn's over in Tampa Bay. Also, Sully Matias, who was going to get a prospect profile, but you haven't seen that. But Sully Matias is a B potential outfielder. As you can see, they very much need a right fielder in Tampa Bay. Sully Matias could even be their starting right fielder now if they really wanted to, and I would say he's definitely going to be their starting right fielder in 2021. They also have quite a bit of need in left field too, so he could play either of those. And then the main piece in the deal was Stefan Velasquez. He was our first-round pick in the 2018 draft. We have quite a few middle infield prospects, and Stefan Velasquez, I needed to throw in an A potential guy to get this trade done, and I felt like Stefan Velasquez was a guy who we don't quite need. He's a guy who does have a lot of value and a lot of potential, so we gave Stefan Velasquez to the Tampa Bay Rays. And as far as Chris Archer's start so far with the Kansas City Royals, we did record the game against the New York Yankees, which was his first start, but obviously there's no way of showing that. But I can show you his box score from those games. So his first start against the Yankees, he pitched 5 innings, gave up 8 hits, 5 runs, walked a guy, struck out 8. He got the win on July 25th. So not the greatest outing with 5 earned runs, but he did strike out 8 through 5. And then against Boston on July 31st, he went 6 1/3, gave up 5 hits, 4 earned runs, walked 1, struck out 7. So decent start, not the best, but I mean, you'll take what you can get with that against Boston. And then in Baltimore, he absolutely dominated the Orioles. 6 1/3, 7 hits given up, only 1 earned run. He did walk a few guys with 4 walks, but he struck out 8 in those 6 1/3 innings. So very good start for Chris Archer in that game on August 5th. And then on August 11th, he started against the Chicago White Sox, and he had a pretty shaky start. He had 5 innings, gave up 8 hits, 5 runs, walked 2 guys, only struck out 4. He got the loss in that game. So not the greatest start there, but like I said, I am confident that Chris Archer is going to be a very good pitcher for us, especially if we bring him back next season, and he's also going to help us throughout this playoff push here in 2020. And that takes us into August, which is the month that we are currently in here in 2020. Really what's happened so far in late July and early August is that, one, Miguel Andujar has been sent down to AAA. The guy just was not performing in the major leagues, and it's you can't really not perform with the bat at third base, because that is a position that is looked upon to have a very good bat. So Miguel Andujar has been sent down. He is improving, though. His attributes, unlike Richard Rose, are going up. Richard Rose's continue to go down, even though he wasn't performing well. Miguel Andujar his attributes are continuing to improve, so hopefully he is going to be an option for us at some point, but as of right now, he did not have the best 92-game stint with us, with only a 6.24 OPS at third base. So he's down. Hunter Dozier is now back up in the major leagues to be the third baseman instead of being at first base. We also sent down Ramon Torres because he just cannot hit. He might end up getting back up if the guy we called up for to replace him can't really get it done, but as of right now, he is in AAA. He's got good attributes, but those good attributes do not equal production. When I first called him up in 2018, he had that 62-game stint in 2018 once we traded Alcides Escobar, where he had a 290 batting average and a 357 OBP, and those stats really, skewed my mind to think this is what we can expect out of Ramon Torres, and that's not what we've gotten from Ramon Torres in last season and also here so far through 2020, so I mean, I guess this is the player that he is. He's just a glove that can hit not really at all. But as of right now, he is in AAA, and called up to replace him is shortstop Nicky Lopez. He got a prospect profile, I believe, in Season 1. He is now up in the major leagues playing shortstop, but only against right-handed pitching. He is a left-handed bat, so he's playing against right-handed pitching, and then Jurickson Profar is the shortstop against left-handed pitching. The switch-hitting utility guy is at shortstop against lefties, and then you may have also noticed that Hunter Dozier, while starting at third base against lefties, is not not starting at third base against righties, that job belongs to Jurickson Profar. So Profar has really played well this year, and he's earned himself a starting lineup spot against both righties and lefties here in Kansas City. We have also sent down Andre Perez, and Mike Ullman is now our backup catcher. He is a guy we acquired in the Whit Merrifield to New York trade in return for Familia, and then Mike Ullman was just kind of like a throw-in guy to be our third catcher. Now he's our backup catcher because Perez is in AAA. Perez is a guy who can hit. That's what he is. That's his value, is he is a hitting catcher. He's not very good defensively, and he was not hitting for us in AAA. So he doesn't really have any value. He has no point to be on the Major League roster if he can't hit. So he's back in AAA, working on his craft down there, still being our third catcher. But Mike Ullman's much better defensively, so that's why Ullman is now the backup rather than Perez. And Jake Jewell is still in he's been sent back down to AAA because he was the odd man out. It's simple as that. We just did not have room for him at the Major League roster because once he returned from his 60-day DL stint, we just did not have room for him. And he was having the best year of his career at the Major League level in 58 and a third innings pitched. He had 51 strikeouts, a sub-3 ERA. But he was just the odd man out. There was no room for him. I could have possibly sent down Josh Fields, but I didn't really want to send down Josh Fields. And then Brad Keller wasn't an option to send down because, one, he doesn't have any minor league options left, and I don't want to lose him to waivers. And two, he's pitching very well. So Brad Keller has 51 strikeouts, the same amount that Jake Jewell had, but he has those 51 strikeouts in very less innings, or much less innings. 37 in the third innings pitched, he's got those 51 strikeouts, and he has a sub-3 ERA. So Keller has been pretty fantastic for us in the bullpen as that long reliever alongside Rafael Montero. And now taking a look at some of the stats of our players, Jorge Soler is the best bat on our team statistically. He leads the team in home runs with 24, and he's also got the highest OPS at 924, so Soler has been very good. Vince Falvey, there's a reason why he's still on the roster, and that's because he is our number 2 hitter, and he is absolutely dynamite at the plate. Vince Falvey, 913 OPS, 19 home runs, 13 stolen bases, and 411 at-bats. The guy has a potential to have a 2020 season with home runs and stolen bases. Pavin Smith also has been very good, a 902 OPS, 13 home runs, and 234 bats since being called up from AAA Omaha. Jorge Bonifacio also getting the job done at the plate. He's got 23 bombs, a 901 OPS. Jurickson Profar, this is why he's proven that he can be a starter for us. He's a 708 OPS, 9 home runs, 280 at-bats, so Profar, he's getting the job done as the utility guy and now as a starter at 2 different positions against righties and lefties. Marcus Semien, a 768 OPS, 17 home runs, maybe not the highest OBP for a leadoff guy, but our lineup is jam-packed with so much quality hitting, so much power potential that you don't really... I mean, it would be good to have a higher OBP than that, but I mean, we're just sticking with it right now where we just have 1 through 9 is just guys who can hit bombs. Brett Phillips is a guy who started off the year really well. The first 2 months of the season, he was in like the league leaders for like home runs, RBI, even WAR, doubles, all that good stuff. OPS, he was up there as well, and he still got a pretty good OPS at 743, but the average and OBP aren't really there. So Brett Phillips, he's obviously our center fielder, but I mean, it's not the best average OBP. You definitely want to see that improve, but he is still producing with that 743 OPS and then 18 home runs on the year. So, I mean, the guy is hitting home runs. He's just not getting on base as much as I would have liked. A 232 average, 295 OBP. So hopefully that can improve as the season goes on and then also moving into next year. Travis Jankowski has a 730 OPS, 17 stolen bases. He's still doing his thing off the bench as the 4th outfielder. Hunter Dozier, these stats are really just from his first stint with us. He's on fire right now because he did have quite a good, what am I trying to say here? Quite a good AAA streak going when we called them up. So 694 OPS, that's mainly from when he was in the major leagues the first 2 months of the season at first base, not performing. But now he is at third base, and those stats are just... they're not really affected by his time at third base because he's only been up for like 5 games. Maybreeze Valoria, he's only got a 625 OPS with 7 home runs, but that is similar to what as Salvador Perez is putting up for us, around the same OPS, and then also Villovia is still a very young catcher, and he is going to continue to get better. This is his first season in the major leagues, and unlike Andujar, he's not at a position where he needs to hit. He's still great defensively, and that's really what you can look for at a catcher. He doesn't need to have a 900 OPS, unlike a guy at third base would, like, ideally you would want them to have. Now taking a look at the pitching side of things, on the starting rotation, there's Danny Duffy as our best starter by far, 3.6 WAR, 3.09 ERA in 154 innings. Chris Archer still has a 2.9 WAR, but the ERA like a low 4. I mean, not awful, definitely not bad, it's just mediocre, which you don't really want from Chris Archer, but I am hoping he's going to be much better than that down the line of the season and then into the playoffs and then hopefully next few years with us in the rotation as well. Felix Hernandez, same deal. This is the common thing throughout a rotation this year. Just a lot of guys who are kind of getting the job done. They're not really lights out numbers, they're not really special, they're just kind of going out there, you know, having decent starts, and then the offense is propelling us to have a good record. So Hernandez, 4.09 ERA in 141 innings. Jake Junis, a 4.31 ERA in 131 innings. And then Jose Urena is doing the job as his fifth starter with a sub-4 ERA at 3.71 in 125 innings. Now moving on to the bullpen, Rafael Montero has been the most valuable member of the bullpen, especially once you look at the WAR. He has a 2.6 WAR as a member of the bullpen. That is absolutely ridiculous. He has 180 strikeouts in 134 2/3 innings out of the bullpen. He's in the league leaders for strikeouts as a long reliever. That is absolutely ridiculous. Rafael Montero's out there just striking out everybody. His ERA, obviously not the greatest, but I mean, it is a reliever. You don't really look at ERAs for relievers. Josh Fields, 4 ERA, not the best, but he is striking out a decent amount of people in a decent amount of innings and not walking too much. So he's decent enough in our rotation this year. That's kind of why I was looking at maybe sending him down for Jake Jewell, but I opted to keep Fields for the playoffs, for the playoff push, and then also playoffs rather than Jake Jewell. Jose Torres has been a very good left-handed pitcher for us. He's got a sub-2 ERA in 36 1/3 innings pitched. He's been very good. Familia, 27 Ks in 27 innings, a 3.25 ERA. He's our setup guy. He sets the bridge up until Kelvin Herrera, so he's doing his job. Brad Brock has been very good. He's striking out 35 guys in 25 1/3 innings pitched. He's on a 1-year deal. I might even bring him back next season on another 1-year deal. It depends on how much money he wants. Sean Gilmartin, our Rule 5 draft pick, he's got 20 strikeouts in 17 2/3 innings, a 2.04 ERA. He is limited innings, but he is doing the job when he does get those chances. And then Kelvin Herrera has 32 saves in 42 1/3 innings pitched. He's getting the job done as a closer. Probably not going to have another 50-save season, but he is out there doing his job as the closer. And now taking a look finally at our record, the Kansas City Royals are sitting at 67-56 here halfway through the month of August, which is good enough for first place in the American League Central. Cleveland is only a half game behind us, though, and we are in the middle of a series with the Cleveland Indians, which will be the next game that you see, which I'll get into in a little bit. The White Sox, they still do have a chance, but they're 5 games back. I mean, they would have to have a really good run here to end the year. Minnesota also still kind of in it, but also not really, 7 games back. And then it is possible that a team could win this division and then also make it as a wild card team, because the Indians right now are only half game back, and they're 1 game out of the wild card, which are currently held by the Red Sox and Yankees, because the AL East is absolutely ridiculous, and they have so many good teams in that division. And just as a little update, we're going to take a look at how Milwaukee is doing, because obviously we did send Salvador Perez there, and really their roster is the same as it was last year when they were the runner-up in the World Series, and then the year before when I believe they either lost the World Series again or they were in like the ALCS. So they've been a very good team, and their roster is pretty much a carbon copy of those rosters, except now they have a much better catcher, and somehow they're not. They're not good. They have a 59-64 record. They're 4th in the NL Central, in the National League Central, so somehow they're not good. Even Salvador Perez is doing well for them. He's doing much better for them than he was ever for us. And they're just not doing well. Kane's not having the best season. Maybe that's why they're not able to do things. Not really getting too much production at a first base out of Ryan Braun and Eric Thames. Or Thames. I'm pretty sure it's Thames. It's Marcus Thames. That's the Yankees hitting coach. And then Mike Moustakas also has a 7.94 OPS with 26 home runs in Cincinnati. So that's going to wrap things up here for this edition of the Kansas City Royals franchise. We are going to, next episode, be the Kansas City Royals against the Cleveland Indians. Felix Hernandez takes on Danny Salazar in the middle of a series against this Indians team that are only a half game behind us. I've been your host, Jersey Born, and I'm saying goodbye.